Before we get to your report, I do want to ask you how the crash in crypto has affected just general demand for your services when it comes to blockchain consulting, because there was all this excitement, right, at the end of last year, beginning of this year, and there's, I would think, have been an effect from what we've seen from the prices.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really interesting. So we sort of divide the world into what is distributed ledger technology and enterprise application of blockchain technology, and then what is happening in the cryptocurrency markets. And so they are a little bit distinct. Of course, we saw a run-up in excitement around crypto at the end of last year with the listing of the futures and so on and so forth. We're still seeing tremendous excitement, both from issuers of potential token assets that could appear on these networks. We're still seeing a lot of demand, people trying to figure out, okay, what is the method through which I could bring digital assets to the market? How would I list them? Where would I list them? What is the appropriate market infrastructure for me to connect to? So we're still seeing that despite the crash. And we're seeing that actually this phenomena of, what is the interest in digital assets and the token economy more broadly is quite distinct from what is the price of Bitcoin right now, because some of these assets are not cryptocurrencies, of course, right? They're access rights to networks or security tokens and so on. And so that's still, really an exciting area for us. The demand, though, for blockchain advisory services, to your question, is still really, really, really strong. And to the extent that it started in financial services, because the idea was that, again, we could take cost out, there was a potential disruption effect on that sector. It's actually every sector that we deal with that's interested in this technology.
84% of respondents to your survey said that they have some involvement with it, but only 32% are in development.
Yeah.
So, 20% are in research, for example, and 14% haven't even got going. And 54% say the effort hasn't been justified. Why is that?
Yeah, I think getting to what is the return on investment is actually really hard. And again, I don't think this has to do with does the blockchain technology work? I think it has to do with how do I take this out to a commercial application at scale? Because again, what we're really talking about is building networks. And we're talking about industry participants getting together and working in a collaborative way, and maybe in different ways than they've done in the past. And that's really difficult. And, part of what our clients are telling us is that there's a trust barrier, right? There's a trust in, the ecosystem that I'm interacting with the other players in the market. And there's a concern around the regulatory response, particularly in the United States. So this is one of the reasons, I think, why people are struggling to get it out to scale.
And speaking of the United States, of course, China would be one of the other big markets. That's something you also found in your survey.
Right.
How are we sort of doing on a competitive basis, and are they going to catch up and surpass us?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. I mean, I think part of the challenge is, of course, to the extent you have a lot of legacy infrastructure in the United States, whether we're talking about industrial product supply chains, whether we're talking about financial institutions and banks, a tremendous amount of money already being spent, a lot of existing legacy technology that needs to be interoperable with these blockchain markets. So that's going to take some time to try to figure that out. To the extent emerging markets are able to leapfrog, and the regulatory environment is actually enabling that and sponsoring that, that starts to become a problem potentially competitively for the United States. We're quite concerned that the United States could, in fact, slip behind to the extent these countries can really leapfrog because they have less to fix, so to speak.
Grania, where are you seeing the most exciting development when it comes to the blockchain? What industry or what development?
Yeah, to me, it's really about digital assets. So it's about where we're seeing a tremendous amount of activity is taking what are physical assets and representing those in digital form, and then dramatically changing how supply chains work, for example, connecting companies that are in the supply chain together, customers and suppliers, and dramatically changing the economics of how those goods move around the supply chain and how that working capital is managed.